The WNBA tried to capitalize on her popularity and crammed a lot of games in over a short amount of time, playing against the best teams in the WNBA.
Dan Patrick did not simply critique Team USA. He put words to a frustration that had been building across the sports world. His broadcast carried the weight of millions of viewers who felt blindsided when the Olympic roster appeared, and the biggest star in women's basketball stayed home. Caitlin Clark had been driving the league's momentum, pulling national attention toward games that once struggled for it, yet the decision-makers acted as if none of that mattered. Patrick called the choice baffling, backward, and entirely disconnected from reality, and those words landed because analysts across the country recognized the same pattern he did. Fans were not imagining the shift in numbers or the sudden relevance that came with her arrival, and they were not exaggerating when they pointed out how dependent the league had become on her ability to draw ratings, fill arenas, and boost sponsorships. What caught Patrick's attention was how leadership treated her like a replaceable rookie when she had already reshaped the business around them. This contradiction pushed his commentary from criticism to alarm, and the result was a moment where even mainstream outlets stopped cushioning their language. The impact Clark created was measurable and immediate, yet she remained the one person left out of the sport's biggest stage. Her absence raised a larger issue about how institutions respond when a newcomer changes the system faster than they expected. As revenue climbed and audience interest surged, the people in charge held tightly to the hierarchies that shaped earlier eras. The growth unfolding in front of them did not seem to change how they evaluated new talent or how they framed the league's internal culture. This unwillingness to adjust created a quiet tension behind the scenes because Clark's presence disrupted the familiar order that officials and executives had grown comfortable protecting. Leadership continued relying on the same political structures and the same unwritten rules, even as the data proved the sport had entered a different moment. That disconnect created the conditions for every strange decision that followed, and it made the reaction to her rise even more complicated. The result was a landscape where fans witnessed undeniable growth, yet the response from the top remained muted and slow. Patrick's frustration echoed this imbalance, capturing how the league benefited from her rise while refusing to acknowledge the scale of what she had done. Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA with a speed and confidence that made the usual adjustment period vanish. Most first-year players require months to understand the physical demands of the league, yet she needed only a few weeks. Her assist numbers climbed past modern rookie benchmarks, and she quickly transitioned from competing with her peers to chasing the all-time single-season assist record. Scoring nights of 20 and 25 points started stacking up, and double-digit totals in both points and assists became so routine that commentators began referring to them simply as her standard output. Near triple-doubles pushed the conversation forward again, turning each game into another chapter in a rapidly growing profile. Teammates responded to her presence as well, gaining clearer looks at the basket, finding new rhythm, and playing with a confidence that lifted the entire Fever offense. Possessions carried more purpose, and the team moved with a sharper identity because she directed the floor with a pace that changed how opponents prepared for each matchup. What nobody expected was the coldness that began to surround her success, as if acknowledging her influence threatened the established hierarchy that had shaped the league for years. Pressure around Clark intensified as her profile grew, and the courts she played on carried a tension that had little to do with the scoreboard. The first clear warning arrived when she tapped the basket stanchion after a missed shot and received a technical foul on the spot. There was no profanity and no confrontation, just a moment of frustration that officials interpreted as something far more dramatic. That call signaled how tightly she would be policed throughout the season, and the result was a stretch of games where she received far less benefit of the doubt than older players. Opponents leaned into physical play, and subtle bumps during dead balls became common. Shoulder checks, hip nudges, and small acts of intimidation followed her from arena to arena. Yet those moments rarely drew the same whistles she faced. Seattle even removed starters late in a game to keep her from securing a historic triple-double, turning the pursuit of milestones into a battle that extended beyond routine competition. Teams aimed to protect their own reputations by limiting what she accomplished, and the shift in tone revealed how uneasy the league had become with the speed of her rise. Officials treated her rise with a coldness that stood out, signaling that talent alone would not bring her the respect afforded to stars in other leagues. Instead of elevating the player driving unprecedented attention, they acted intent on reminding her that status must be earned slowly, even while she outperformed expectations. In the NBA, athletes like LeBron receive protection when they become the face of the sport. In tennis, Serena's dominance attracted praise rather than punishment. In football, Mahomes became the league's centerpiece before he reached his prime. Clark lived the opposite experience. Her profile grew, the pressure followed, and the result was a stretch of games where she appeared treated less like an asset and more like a potential disruption to established norms. What nobody expected was how she kept controlling games in spite of the mounting tension. Even with physical defenders, even with a whistle that tightened in crucial moments, she continued driving her team forward with the same efficiency that built her reputation. The Olympic roster reveal should have delivered joy and anticipation, but the absence of her name shifted the tone instantly. Fans waited for the announcement, expecting a celebration of American talent, yet the reveal created the loudest controversy of the year. When the country's most recognizable player did not appear as a starter, a reserve, or even a developmental selection, frustration exploded across broadcasts and social feeds. Dan Patrick called the decision embarrassing and short-sighted, and he argued that it ignored the basic business reality facing the sport. Television networks relied on her to drive ratings. The league benefited from her draw. Broadcasters built their schedules around her arrival. Yet Team USA behaved as if her influence held no weight, and this contradiction fueled the nationwide response. Buried beneath the public outrage sat a more complicated truth. Women's basketball has carried a generational split for years, shaped by players who pushed through eras defined by limited pay, minimal visibility, and constant disrespect. Those veterans believed recognition should accumulate slowly through seasons of loyalty and endurance. Clark represented a different model. Talent, charisma, and cultural momentum placed her into the spotlight, instantly creating a level of fame that older generations never had access to. For many fans, that shift felt like a sign of progress, but for others, the sudden acceleration created discomfort. The Olympic snub highlighted this divide, clearly exposing how the sport was torn between its past and the rapidly expanding world around it. What fans witnessed that week was not just a roster decision, it was a collision between two eras viewing the meaning of success through entirely different lenses. While the Olympic roster ignited debate about politics inside the sport, her salary revealed an even deeper contradiction. The league celebrated record attendance, soaring television numbers, and financial growth that exceeded projections. Yet the player responsible for the surge earned $76,000 for the entire year. That number shocked casual viewers who assumed she earned far more, and the reaction grew louder when one press conference delivered a moment no one expected. After a Fever win, Lexi Hull joked about buying season tickets for her family, and Clark replied with a laugh before pointing out that those seats cost nearly what the players earned in a year. Silence filled the room. Teammates paused, reporters froze, and the truth lingered in the air because she had stated the obvious. With clarity, the league's most valuable figure could not afford to sit courtside at her own games. Dan Patrick seized on that moment by asking how Team USA could overlook the athlete driving the financial boom. The disconnect between her impact and her paycheck grew impossible to defend, and the imbalance pushed the conversation into national discussion. For years, players advocated for charter flights, calling for safer travel, proper rest, and the professionalism associated with major sports leagues. Their requests met resistance from executives who referenced budgets, logistics, and long-term planning. That changed when Clark entered the league and spoke openly about the commercial flights, tight connections, and overnight travel that had long affected player health. She did not demand anything, nor did she frame it as a complaint. She simply described the reality. That single admission carried enough influence to shift policy. Within days, the league announced a charter flight program, a decision executives claimed as a milestone, even though the timing made the real cause obvious. Clark had changed the calculation without raising her voice. Years of advocacy by veterans suddenly gained the weight they previously lacked because her presence transformed every economic consideration surrounding the sport. Dan Patrick cited this moment as the clearest sign of her authority, noting that the league reacted quickly because the numbers she generated left no room for hesitation. In sports, business influence shows itself through decisions that would not exist without the person who triggered them, and this policy shift fit that pattern exactly. The reaction that followed the charter flight announcement stunned many fans because instead of celebrating the long-awaited improvement, a few players redirected their frustration toward Clark herself. Her influence became a point of resentment rather than a shared victory, as if her presence diminished the years of struggle that came before her. The league often presented a unified front, especially during public-facing events, but the moment she arrived, the hidden fractures surfaced. Veterans who spent 10 years fighting for attention suddenly watched a rookie draw more interest in 1 month than the league had generated in recent seasons. That shift created an undercurrent of tension that grew louder with each headline she sparked. What nobody expected was how quickly admiration turned into competitiveness, or how some players responded by treating her success as a threat instead of an opportunity. The resentment lingered because Clark brought a spotlight that forced the league to confront issues it had quietly carried for years. The media's coverage added another layer of pressure. Every highlight Clark produced became fuel for comparisons to Angel Reese, transforming two strong rookies into a rivalry the league insisted did not exist. Reese delivered a standout season worthy of praise, yet the constant debates about who shined brighter created tension far beyond normal competition. Fans chose sides, analysts pushed narratives, and the conversation shifted from celebrating both players to asking which one mattered more. That environment set the stage for the moment that captured the divide better than any debate. During a dead ball, Skylar Diggins-Smith accelerated toward Clark and delivered a bump that had nothing to do with basketball strategy. The clip lasted less than a second, but the message behind it hung over the league for days because viewers recognized what it represented. It symbolized frustration, resentment, or a deeper discomfort with how quickly Clark became the face of the sport. Dan Patrick did not shy away from the issue, describing the jealousy and defensive attitudes as barriers to growth rather than signs of healthy competition. His point was simple. Clark did not break the league's unity. Her rise exposed where it had already split. The data that came afterward erased any lingering doubt about her impact. Every time she stepped onto a court, television numbers surged at a rate that overshadowed every argument against her. Games once stuck in the low six figures suddenly crossed the million mark with ease, and Indiana matchups doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled the ratings of marquee games around the league. Viewership patterns became so obvious that broadcasters adjusted schedules to capture the momentum. What made the surge even more striking was Indiana's transformation. Before Clark arrived, the Fever lived in the bottom tier of viewership and relevance, but her debut turned the franchise into a national attraction overnight. Networks asked for more games, highlight reels flooded social platforms, and the team's reputation shifted faster than anyone anticipated. As these numbers continued building, Patrick delivered the assessment many fans already believed: the Olympic snub had nothing to do with basketball skill or readiness. It stemmed from politics hierarchy and an unwillingness to accept that a rookie had become the league's driving force. Every meaningful metric pointed to her influence, and ignoring that influence left Team USA with a decision that made no sense outside of internal comfort. Clark reshaped the league from the moment she arrived. She elevated ratings, filled arenas, revived a struggling franchise, and attracted millions of new viewers to a sport thirsting for national attention. Yet instead of enjoying the support usually given to transformative athletes, she absorbed harsher officiating, physical targeting, and relentless scrutiny. The Olympic snub revealed how uneasy some corners of the basketball world felt about the speed of her rise, but none of that slowed her down. She kept setting records, kept improving her team, and kept dominating conversations without ever asking for sympathy. Patrick's outburst resonated because he voiced what many fans had been feeling: Clark had done everything right, yet she was treated as if she had disrupted the natural order. His commentary captured the frustration of a nation watching a generational talent face resistance at every turn while still carrying the league toward unprecedented growth. His warning left little room for interpretation. If Team USA failed to understand the value standing in front of them, then other opportunities, international or commercial, would fill the gap quickly. Generational stars do not wait for institutions to catch up, and neither do the fans who follow them. Now attention shifts toward the question everyone keeps asking: did Team USA make a statement, or did they make a mistake they cannot undo?